Record. Good morning, everyone. This is Wednesday, July 10th, 2019. And I'm here today to interview Sandra Morin, the co author of Game Changer, the book we wrote together. Thus, co author. So at any rate, I think through a recent podcast that we did on Dave Vitale's business report, we kind of got a bit of my background a little bit, but so far we don't know too much about Sandra. So I'm going to give her a shot here at giving some background on who she is, where she come from, how she kind of got to this point in her life, and then perhaps we'll understand where she's coming from in some of the questions and her points of view. So Sandra, could you sort of take it away in relation to that?
Sure. Thank you so much, Michael. Well, first of all, I've had a very different life. Not an easy life, but a very blessed life. And I can remember when I was 2 years old, actually looking around and thinking, wow, this is going to be a pretty tough one. Okay. I guess that's what gave me the incentive that I had to do my life. I was the one that had to build it. At the age of 3, I lost my grandpa, who I was very, very close to. He used to come over every night and say good night and whatever. And this one night he said goodbye. And so he went back to his home and he passed over. And he actually said to his wife, Jenny, you can't come with me. 6 months later to the day, she passed over. So I'm now 3 years old at a funeral. And in those days, they picked you up and you could look at the body and kiss the body. And I remember everybody saying, oh, that poor little girl, her and her grandpa were so close. And I'm looking around and I'm thinking, wow, these people are really stupid. I mean, grandpa told me that he was going away. My whole life was about spirituality. I also had a photographic memory, which if you have one, you don't really know it until you lose it. And I got very ill with viral encephalitis when I was about 17 and lost it, which was actually a good thing because it moved me more into the creative side of my brain. Coming from a very, very small town, living on a farm, I was just a very common, earthy kind of a person. And so nowadays, when I hear all these people talking about permaculture and living off the land, I think it's quite interesting because where I come from, we had no electricity, we had no water, we had a well, we had an outdoor toilet. We had a little pot-bellied stove to heat in the morning. We had a bath in a metal bathtub. And so I come from that kind of a life. So I really appreciate basic things in life. Fast forward, I ended up getting married, having 3 children. And then at the age of 23, I opened my first business, had a staff of 5. I was a cosmetologist in the Northwest Territories. So I'm raising 3 children. I am a major breadwinner, and I have a very, very successful business. Ended up moving back from the Northwest Territories to Alberta. Ended up building a beautiful home. A girlfriend and I went into business, bought some commercial buildings, and then ended up going through a divorce, losing everything. At that particular time, I'm on my own again, went through a divorce children were in their teens. Thank goodness I was a major breadwinner. I had an opportunity then to go on to university. The universe is very good to me. It takes care of me. It puts me in places. So I kind of walk with spirit. At 31, I ended up going and doing an ed degree. Now, the interesting thing is it was one of the last degrees that were given to vocational people because they needed us to have a degree to go teaching. At that time, there wasn't a lot of money that you made, but doing a lot of my spiritual work, I did a lot of readings, a lot of sessions for people. And I guess my whole life, even when I was young, when I reflect back on it, was about discovering self. So I got very interested, even in my teens, in astrology, numerology, the spiritual aspects of life. So that's what helped me to raise my children when I went to school. Then I went teaching, but the bottom line is I never stayed teaching. For 20 years, I taught in 5 of the biggest school boards in Alberta. But again, the universe brought synchronistic events into my life. It was just like things that I needed to do. I ended up working with a modeling agency, spending time living in Hawaii. I ended up writing books as a spa consultant because I ended up going in as a spa director, then started helping a client build big day spas. From that, I ended up moving into writing. My first book was published by a lady in New York, and I did a lot of writing for Spa Canada. So I've done a very diverse thing. I've even been over to Muscat, Oman, doing building a spa. I was in Philadelphia at a book launch. I've done speaking engagements for the ABA. In Canada, I am an international master judge, business presentations in Orlando. So I've had a very diverse life. But the one thing that remains with me is my connection to the divine. I walk with spirit, I trust. And so my life can be where I'm on top of the mountain and then I'm in the valley because it's a total evolution. Once I met Michael, I had my one book that I had always thought about, and that was because of the spiritual work. I looked around and seen the demise of our society because of the breakup of marriages. For me, the important thing for Game Changer was the children. And what I mean by children is, you have to remember, I taught for 20 years. I had 3 children. We went through a divorce. The children were all, or adult children now, they had gone through divorces. So I seen the effects on my own children, the grandchildren. And for 20 years, I seen the effects of students in a high school. I stood behind a chair for years doing hair and listened to everybody. Have worked with thousands of people doing spiritual sessions and readings. And so my passion is really about the children, what society is doing, what parents are doing, what everybody's doing for the children, okay? Or what's happening. Let's put it this way. What's happening to the souls of the children because of the lack of being connected to the divine, of just living in ego. And it's this whole Me Too generation or generations of what I'm entitled to, what I deserve, that type of thing. And so I think that's about covers it, Michael. So if you want to go ahead and talk about the statistics, and then I can just move forward.
Okay, so what's gonna where I wanted to lead this, now that we've got some of your background, right? We recently did a podcast on Dave Wiedela's business program that he offers, and you cited some rather alarming statistics during your part of the presentation. And one of them was almost 70% of divorces are filed by women because, getting back to the family and so on. And that to me is pretty alarming. So I wanted to know your thoughts on why you think that's happening. Why are women so much more prone to divorce?
Well, it's very interesting. I could start at a couple of places. And I think where I want to start is I have noticed, especially this last while, because of course it's graduation season, and I like to keep on top of everything. And statistics for me that maybe are a year old, I need to know them right now. And what I found very interesting, because as a teacher for 20 years, I always attended the grads. Well, I look nowadays and the skimpy dresses that these young women are wearing is quite it's astounding. I can't believe this is supposedly a very, it almost looks like a slutty kind of, it is, in my words, a slutty kind of persona they're giving off, okay? And so one of the things with Game Changer, one of the things that I believe wholly, and I would debate it with anyone, unless a woman, a young woman, starts to honor herself, value herself, and take the time to build herself a career, she's always going to be dependent. So they're dependent on mommy and daddy. So mommy and daddy give them everything, okay? So now they go to this grad and they get this $5,000 dress, and they're in this limousine, whatever. What are they doing? They are sexually trying to attract a young man. Number one, they have been taught by their parents that that's one of the ways to go, okay? Because if they weren't taught by their parents that way to go, their parents wouldn't be allowing them to dress that way because obviously they bought them the dress. Boom. I know people that have sent their daughters to university simply not to get a career, but to find a man, okay? Now, let's look at the other hand. Men are very sexually active at that particular time, so they're very, what's the word?
Susceptible.
Very susceptible to the female seduction, okay? And basically what happens then is we have these young women are really domesticated prostitutes, and the men become their slaves. Then what happens, they have children because the woman wants a child right away because that cements the man. Now she's caught him, okay? And so we have a new term nowadays. It's called baby dads. We have a man slave. It's gone so far as women are purchasing pregnancy tests when they find a young man, tell him they are pregnant. He feels, oh my God, I have to honor this and whatever. And 6 to 8 months later, or not even 6 months, the statistics are 3 months. And she goes, oh my God, lost the baby. Well, now she's caught him. Okay. My idea is that I would like parents to wake up to the fact that they need to teach their daughters and their young men about the value of themselves. They need to help guide them to find that they need to find a really good career, okay? Because if they have no career, they don't really have a sense of self because they're beholden to whatever. So they don't have any purpose and meaning in life, okay? So that's one of the reasons these young women are bored. They have no purpose. They find a baby dad, and then it's like, well, the grass could be greener. Now, that could be when they're younger. There's a lot of statistics, especially here in Alberta, where a lot of young men have gone up to Fort McMurray to work, or they work away from home to help the family. They come back. Of course, when they're in the apprenticeship program, they need to have, they've saved money because they have to go to school for so long. One particular young man had about $30,000, so he thought he was quite safe to go to school. He went and his bank account was empty. She had used it for buying clothes online, this whole online thing. They can sit at home with their babies and then just order stuff. What they're doing is they are trying to fill a hole. They haven't found the spirit. They haven't found meaning. They're not fulfilled. There's no transparency. There's no authenticity. They have no idea who they are. Okay. And that's a huge thing for me. Okay. So now they'll have a couple of kids, they're bored, and it's like, oh my God, they meet somebody online or at a place and they fall in love. Okay, this is my soulmate. And you know what? Cut the bullshit. I've been doing spiritual work all my life. Okay, yes, soulmates come. We do have free will and we have a responsibility. Nobody but that parent and that female, I honestly feel that males are feeling more responsibility and accountability for their children. Because right now I'm a member of the divorce committee in Alberta. It's a big resource committee, and we've changed the justice system here. And what they're finding, and that's why they have the polygraphs, the young women move from one man to another because they're bored. What they're doing now is they're charging or trying to say to the young men, to the dad of the child is, you know, they sexually touched me, they did this. So what do they want? They want money because they don't have the power to make money. Okay, other than if they open their legs and have a kid and the government gives them money, or they'll get it from the parent. What's happened now is the judges in Alberta and the psychologists have said the children are not chattels anymore. So guess what? They have proven that psychologically the child cognitive skills are affected, and that child will never reach his full potential because of the crazy parent alienation using these kids for money. Now, I probably got a lot winded on that, but that's the score, and I don't care. So it all starts, if you are a parent, okay, or if you're a grandparent, and let me tell you, I do tough love. I got 5 grandchildren and 1 great-grandchildren. Sometimes I don't talk to them for maybe 2 years because I cannot condone their behavior. If I condone their behavior, I'm saying it's all right, and I know where they're going to be going, okay? And so for me, it's called tough love, okay? The sad part is people say, I'm really tough, I'm a realist, I'm a pragmatist, okay? I see reality, I have a huge imagination, I have great creativity, and I would like to help these young women, okay, to find some kind of purpose in their life so that they can reach their full potential. Another thing, the latest stats, Michael, that you say, 43% of these children are living without their father. You're probably going to mention that stat, but right now, as of today, a big challenge is parent alienation. As of today, 22 million people in the USA are suffering from parent alienation. My purpose is to stop it, to try and help people, give them some wisdom. No, did I get carried away on that?
So if I can just get back to my original question here, where you stated almost 70% of divorces are filed by women. And I know you talked a lot about the younger, it appeared to me you were talking about the younger women. Okay, now in my experience, that statistic makes sense to me, but a lot of it was with women hitting around 50.
Oh, I got some
And
good news for that.
that time that there's perhaps, this is my thought and you can go to it, perhaps there is enough wealth built up in the family where they can uh, initiate a divorce, take half of it with them, and restart the life that's finally going to be about them, because lots of them felt like they've given their life to their kids and so on, and now it's their turn. And then they leave a situation behind that's pure devastation. And what's gone wrong, do you think? What happened in their life that they hit 50 or 55, and it seemed like a lot of my friends, male friends, when it happened to me, it was happening to them. It wasn't just an isolated case.
Well, guess what? Exactly what I talked about, the young women today, using their sexuality to seduce a man so they can be taken care of. So all of you men, 50, 60, 70 years old, you did the same thing with your woman. But guess what? So now she didn't have the kids, okay? And it's called the greener grass syndrome, okay? And it actually comes from a man called Michael Rosenfeld. He is a professor of sociology at Stanford University. So now the kids are gone. By this time, the male, 50, 60, whatever, okay, they're tired. They've worked their ass off building a fortune for their wife and their children. They've enabled her. Now, the husband has enabled her. Oh my God, I'll just have a little part-time job, or I'm going to stay at home. So she really has nothing. There's an emptiness in her soul. Okay, so she tries to fill that emptiness by buying stuff, going out, having friends. She doesn't know what it means to manage a household financially. Okay, and a good point. How many people, because I was single for 25 years, I had relationships but never lived with someone. How many married women with good husbands would say to me, "You're so lucky"? I went, "Lucky? Well, you're divorced. You can do whatever you want." I went, "You know what? You have no idea what it's like being divorced. You take care of everything as a single mom. So you better have your act together," number one. Number two, I said to those women, "You have wonderful husbands. So you know what? I don't want to talk to you. What you need to say is, if you've got concerns, talk to your husband about it." So what we have is spoiled, entitled women in their 50s, okay, that are now, and the first guy, then we have, so they're called, I call them, or the process is called the greener grass syndrome. But guess what we have is snakes. So these women, because they have no self-confidence, they could never stand on their own 2 feet unless they got this big chunk of change from the man that's worked so hard. I worked in a salon in one of my times, okay? Maybe, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, a very high-end salon for males. I used to do all of the businessmen in the Edmonton area. And the sad thing was, they would come in and they would be in their 60s, say, "How's it going?" Blah, blah, blah. You know, we're retiring. And they go, "Yeah, we're not feeling really good." Why? Well, we've worked hard. Our wife was able to stay at home or just have a little job, no career. We planned to retire. We'd live 6 months in Canada and 6 months in the States. Okay? And I said, "Well, that sounds like a great deal." You know what she said to me? He said, "If you think I'm leaving my grandchildren now, you're crazy." Next thing, a very close friend of mine in his 40s, 45, went through a divorce. He goes to his accountant and says, "Okay, what am I going to do?" He's a businessman. You know what his accountant said? "Be lucky. This week I had 6 men in their 60s going through the same thing. They sat here in tears." I have no empathy or patience for these little energy vampire women that, guess what? The grass is greener. They think what they should be doing is nurturing the grass there. Now, the male snakes come along and they see these women and they know that they're not fulfilled. They're searching. They want a little bit of excitement, okay? But the male snake is very good. They're slippery, okay? They'll check out to see what the woman's worth is, who she's married to, whatever. And then it's like, oh my God, you're so beautiful. Let's go here. I'll buy you some flowers, okay? So guess what? The snake makes this woman that I call a domesticated prostitute, at least professional prostitutes, it's their career, okay? They're authentic. They know what they're doing. The other ones are deceitful and they are very manipulative. So we start with these young women right now, but guess what? That was going on years ago, only it's more prevalent right now. Okay, does that make any sense?
Well, I'm just going to take it a little bit farther. I mean, what we're taking out of this is as young women, when they're floundering or careerless, not really being self-generators, that carries through into later life, and then it causes problems. So my question to you is, how do we wake these individual women up so that they recognize the devastation that they're creating and leaving behind them, and the willingness to try and make an existing marriage work? How do we wake them up and stop this epidemic of family destruction?
Oh, I've got a simple thing. To me, it's simple. Number one, what happens, the male, let's talk about it when you're older, and then I'll go back to the young, because we're on the older right now. So if you're in your 50s, 60s, late 40s, whatever, and this happens and they come and they go, I want a divorce. It shakes the male up. They don't care, because guess what? They got somebody waiting in the wings. So do these young women, though. So we'll get to that, okay? So the bottom line is the man is busy working, whatever, and she goes, I want a divorce, or blah, 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 whatever she wants. It don't matter. The very first thing the man should do is go to the head, get out of the heart, completely get logical. And that's what Game Changer is about. Stop this emotional BS. Okay, get logical. Stop. The first thing he should do is say to her, fine, you want a divorce? Guess what? Pack your bags and go find an apartment. Then what we're going to do is maybe we'll do mediation. Get her out. Because guess what? If she has to go out, the other guy is not going to want her. Because he figures he's going to move into this nice house. I've heard it 100 times. Okay? That would be my first thing. Say, pack your bags, get out. Then what we're going to do, the next thing is, because it's deceit and lying. And guess what? That deceit and lie follows down to her family. Okay? So you say, we're going to have a family meeting. Pack your bags. You wanted to change, pack them and go. Then you sit down with the children. And I don't care if they're 4, 5, 15, or 30. You all sit and you have a family meeting. And you say, okay, this is what's happening. Either the man wants a divorce, the woman wants a divorce. Why? Because guess what? The truth always comes out. And if you lie, you have taught your children to lie and be deceitful. And it goes down in the generation. Mother lies, daughter lies, granddaughter lies, great-granddaughter lies. Boom. Because it's lying. And it's the same with men. That to me is simple. Because guess what? As soon as she moves to the apartment, the snake don't want nothing to do with her. He's going to go hunting for someone else. Okay? That for me is the way it is.
Okay, so that would sort of, I'm trying to predate that a little bit. That's some good advice. But how is there a way that we can make women aware of the devastation they cause and try and instill in them this nurturing instinct that they're born with, keep it active and alive during the course of their life to recognize the damage they cause, and so that they don't really want to. They say, look, a better option is to tell the guys to just leave me alone. I have a good husband, I have beautiful children, and a great family. I would like to work on that. Or is that just not possible?
You know, Michael, I think it is possible. And I think that's a great question. The very first thing I want to say to you is there's a term called consciousness. How awake are we? And I'm going to tell you a story. When I was living in Hawaii, I had this dream and whatever. We have different levels of consciousness. Okay. So if they are not conscious, they're never going to get it. Okay. And so that's why you have to be very discerning, as we talked about in Game Changer, to find out it's not a pretty ass or a pretty face, nice boobs, and a nice ass. What is the soul of the person like? You have to go into more soulful kinds of relationships, because you know what? They'll never change. And when you talk about, you seem to think all women are nurturing. No. The female energy is either nurturing or devouring. And when they devour when they're 18. It's about me. And they always will. What does the mother do? I always say to a man, look what's happening in there. Okay? They're going to devour. So you have to ask the right questions. And for you to say, or anybody to say, well, you know what? There was a great marriage. We had this, we had a home, we had the kids, we had all this money. Get some reality check. Okay? And by 50, 60, the men are tired. Guess what? These other women, oh, the biggest deal, I need to go and have a pedicure. I need to have this. They've never had to work hard at it. You have to understand, you're the spiritual fitness man, or the physical fitness, okay? I am the spiritual fitness person. Unless you yourself connect with spirit, okay, and do the work, which means I can stand on my own 2 feet. That's what young women need to do. And parents are the worst ones. When that kid leaves school, before they get into a relationship, I mean, these parents that have these kids living with each at their home is crazy. They have to get their own apartment. They have to go to school. They have to make their own money. They have to know what it's like to financially take care of themselves. Then they're not going to be a vampire, okay? They stand now independent. They've never moved from independence or from being dependent. Once they're independent, they'll find fulfillment and they find meaning in their life. They make their first check. They buy their first car. They even if the car is $1,000, these parents are going and buying these kids, these girls, brand new cars, whatever. They could care less. So what do they think the man's got to do for them? The parents are setting them up nowadays. So we can look at the young ones. We can look at the older ones, the older generation. It's sad. But my thing is, I believe that you have to have a license to have kids. You have to have a license to drive a car. And I have seen, and every day see it, and I see it on Facebook. These kids are talking about they're starving in the world and they want us taxpayers to pay for them. No. If you have a child, you better be able to look after that kid. Okay? And I have no patience or empathy for the manipulation of the male to be a baby dad so that she doesn't have to work. But who did it? The parents did it.
Okay, so I got a kind of a question here to wrap it up. I know to follow along that thought, okay, that line of thinking. Now, I think we would both agree that it's important that us as adults will leave a world for our children where they can grow, they can expand, they can fulfill who they're meant to be in a meaningful way. What kind of a world do you think, the way it sits right now, what kind of world are we leaving for our children to inherit?
Well, I can tell you, Michael, we're leaving a world where most of them live in delusion. That's why there's a lot of escapism into drugs, a lot of suicide, a lot of anger. You see these kids shooting up, and nobody has to tell me, because I taught for 20 years and I've worked with thousands of people doing readings and sessions for them. Until that person comes, they have no wholeness. So what they do is they're not grounded in reality. So they move into delusion. Okay, so they live in this delusionary world. I believe in dreams. I believe we come in here with a purpose and we have meaning and we're to be fulfilled. It's not about what they want in their dream world. It's about, that's ego. It's about, who am I? Why am I here? And once they get on purpose, they're like butterflies, they soar. So we're all we have to do is look at the news, okay? Suicides, see the kids on all kinds of drugs, see the kids that can't take care of themselves. I mean, whatever. I mean, it's a terrible world. However, my purpose, and I know my purpose, is to be able to assist those that do want to find their authenticity, have some personal power and mastery, and create the life. And for me, the big shift, and this started a few years ago, is we've moved from the Piscean energy, okay, which is very much codependent, okay? And when you're codependent, you teach your kids to be codependent, not independent. We've moved to the Aquarian age, which is a whole being. So we all have masculine and feminine energy, and we're to embrace that and become whole. Once you're whole, then you find fulfillment and purpose in life, and you can find another human being. And all this chaos right now and craziness, and it's come up really, really bad the last maybe 10, 15 years. It's a sad state. I have tears, okay? It's good, because guess what? The cosmic events are cleaning up the swamp, and these people are not going to get away with it, okay? They're really going through hard times. The parents are going through hard times, but it's a cleansing. And those that become more conscious, I was just doing a lot of writing last night about the frequencies that are coming in, how the Schumann resonance has moved from 7.83 to 100. The solar celestial beings are trying to help people wake up, but if they are so locked in their ways, and who locked them? The parents. You can do this, we'll give you that. No, stop. Let people be responsible and accountable for their choices and actions, and call them on their stuff. Whether it's your child or not, you're just enabling them. So the good part is people are open to it. The other part is it's free will, it's their choice. Okay. Does that make sense? Did I miss anything?
So in the end, are you hopeful that...
Oh, I'm very hopeful.
Optimistic that we're leaving a world which our children they're going to inherit? All right. Are they going to be able to flourish, or are they going to be worse off than their parents in 100 different ways.
Oh,
Which
no.
way do you see it going?
Oh my God, no, no. I got goosebumps right now. Goosebumps. This is such a strong knowing for me. I would put $100 bet down, and I only bet 25 cents. Okay. This is the opportune time. Okay. I know hundreds of young people that are flourishing that even are above what their parents are, because they're conscious, they're workers, they found their purpose. And here's the thing, you will never reach transparency, authenticity, and personal power when they sold their soul. That's the young women. They sold their soul to be taken care of, and they enslaved a man. When we stop that, okay, there's hundreds of young, I could, right now, I bet you I could find 30 young people from the ages of 20 to 30, 35, if that's what you say, that have done extremely well, and not with the parents' help. They have done that. Their seed, they went through some tough times, but they did it. I have a lot of hope. I have
one more question for you. I promise it's the last one. Okay. But you have raised the consciousness comment several times throughout this interview. And so from where I'm sitting, it appears to me that raising the consciousness of all of us, okay, whether we're married partners, whether we're women contemplating divorce, whether we're young people moving into the world, how do we raise everyone's consciousness?
We cannot raise their consciousness, okay? It's just like you can take a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So you can give them all the information, but if they're not prepared to work, and that's the sad thing, they're not prepared to work because we've given them everything. It's the ones that have struggled that are going to make it. And I was just doing a lot of writing last night, okay? And the thing is, we have free will and choices. You can give it to them, but if they don't take it, that's the one thing you can't do the work. And all I'll say now, this is what I want to close with. The butterfly, what it means in Greek terms is the soul. And so it's interesting, the butterfly comes from the little caterpillar, that's the Cryallis. And I'm restructuring all my social media and website right now, and it's going to be awesome. So here's this little caterpillar, okay? And he's struggling to get out, okay? What a lot of people do is, I'm going to help him. I'm going to get him a book. I'm going to put him in this course. I'm going to do this. What happens is you cut the Cryallis to help him because you don't want to see him struggle, okay? What happens when you cut that is their wings never got the strength to be able to fly, to become the butterfly. Another thing is, call them on their delusion. How's it working for you? That's what I always say. That's why I love Dr. Phil. He's a behaviorist. To me, talk is cheap. I don't believe anything anyone says. The only thing I can discern and evaluate is behavior. So right now it's perfect timing. So how's your life going? What are the results? We can only evaluate that by what's externally happening. So people are want, hungry eyes, I got to have more. Why can't you find the peace within? How can they do that? It's got to be their work, Michael.
Okay, so I'm just going to finish then. I'll close up by saying what appears to be sound advice based on our interview with Sandra, to become a seeker, to be able to find ways to raise your consciousness, whatever that means to you, however that looks, seek ways to do that, because apparently that provides a lot of answers that perhaps some of us are missing.
Yeah, I just want to, once you finish that, I just have
Yeah,
just a couple
that would be my advice based on our conversation, right?
right. And my advice or my knowing is, and I've seen this over, especially the last 20, 25 years, they go to, say, the wall, they pack $5,000, I'm going to get it. They think that it's going to happen instantly. They think they're going to read a book. They're going to buy something. They're going to do yoga. They're going to do something. It don't happen. Physical fitness takes how long? Spiritual fitness. And it's not outside of you. It's inside of you. It's an inward journey. So how you find that is by going in nature, grounding yourself in nature, being aware of nature with the trees and that. Sure, you can read a book, you can fall. There's tons of cults out there right now. Everybody's in a cult. They're all doing this kind of stuff. Your connection is a personal connection with spirit. There's no book, there's no priest, there's nothing. It's you and them. That's where it's at internally, okay? And it is a search. And the interesting thing, some will make it and some will not. But if you're conscious and you have the ability to see truth, take the rose-colored glasses off, your head out of the sand, and be honest with every soul. Because the final thing here is, unless they become authentic, be a generator, own their personal power, okay, and create their own life, they just flounder. They're never going to grow. What bothers me is those people are now bringing children into the world. That's it.
Okay, I think there's some real value in what we've heard, and hopefully this will fit and enhance your life.
Right, and Game Changer, make sure to get Game Changer, because it's all about self-discovery and moving on from self-discovery into being able to create and find and attract that partner that is whole. And so you can create an interdependent relationship rather than the codependency. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, for sure. All right. We'll see you next Wednesday with another topic. And if you have any other ideas, anything you'd like us to discuss, email, and we'll certainly get after it. Check our YouTube, leave a comment, whatever you have to do, right? Subscribe. Awesome. Have a great day. Namaste.